What's up guys, my name is Ace, and early this morning we got a key update for Battlefield 6 that included a small handful of fixes that many of us have been waiting for quite some time to get taken care of, including the fixes that we were hoping to see earlier on to our aim down sight spread in certain situations. And let's just kick this off with that particular change. Keep in mind, there was an update a week or two ago that did actually impact the spread on weapons. There was a tuning pass that went through. I did cover this in great detail with a before and after look at the spread values. Many people were confused by that because the devs said that the fixes for aim down sight spread hadn't gone through yet, so they thought that nothing actually changed there, but no, the changes went through with that update. It was just specific fixes to our aim down sight spread in certain situations. Those didn't go through until this update that just went live today. So let's talk about those fixes. The first one was an issue where dispersion, or aim down sight spread, or bloom as a lot of people like to call it, would be higher than intended when going from sprint to firing in aim down sight. So if you were sprinting, and then you broke your sprint by aiming down sight, and you waited till you were fully aimed down sight before firing, you would still have much higher spread than you should have, because you did the right things in that situation. You stopped sprinting, you stopped moving, you aimed down sight, and then you fired. This is now working as expected, as long as you don't fire a shot until you're fully aimed down sight. I want to be very clear about that. If you pull the trigger a little bit too soon, you will still see a lot of spread immediately when you start firing. So you do have to get your timing right, but at least now, if you do get your timing right, it will be working properly. Your spread will actually be reset to 0, as it should have been all along. Now, on top of that, another issue with spread, and I think this is probably the more widespread issue that's been causing a lot of problems with spread in the game, is your spread would incorrectly scale with the movement speed, and it would always assume that the player is moving at the maximum movement speed for that given stance. So if you're standing and just barely strafing just a little bit, as far as spread was concerned, it was assuming you were moving at full speed while aiming down sight and strafing instead of just moving a little bit. And we can see what this looks like after the patch. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to do the pre-patch testing for this so I could have that nice side-by-side comparison that I usually like to do for these videos. But we can see here, just paying attention, especially to the first several shots fired when I pull the trigger. When standing still, that's pure recoil. There's basically no spread involved there whatsoever, for the initial shots at least. Then, when I'm moving just a little bit forward, I'm moving very, very slowly here, you can see there is a little bit of spread taking place immediately, but it's not too bad. That's pretty manageable. And now this is what it looks like when I'm moving at full speed while aiming down sight. And you can see there's definitely noticeably more spread when firing like this. And this is nice to see because there have been lots of situations where you're just barely moving and you wouldn't expect to suddenly have like maximum spread because you barely moved your foot. Now this does appear to be scaling properly, and that's great news. Now another key change that went through, and this one is quite noticeable as well, is they tuned the landing animation to reduce excessive camera and weapon movement when aiming down sight. So if you guys have ever noticed, if you're aiming down sight and you drop off even just a really small ledge, you would see your sight dip super far down and then come back up to center. And it just seems so heavily exaggerated, especially for the really small drops. This is what it looks like now, and you can see this is much more reasonable. There's still a bit of a dip there. It's still going to be affecting your aim and your ability to see what's going on, but not nearly as much as it was pre-patch. And even from some bigger falls, this is also still very reasonable. It's not a crazy amount of dip. And I think this definitely looks and feels a lot better post-patch compared to pre-patch. Next up, getting away from the player-specific changes here, we finally got our long-awaited fix to lock-guided missiles. As pre-patch, countermeasures like flares wouldn't actually counter these, and therefore, especially on the IFV with the correct setup, you could take out any aerial vehicle and they stood no chance against you. Like, they just couldn't do anything about it. They were dead no matter what. And it actually got so bad that they had to disable that for a period of time so you couldn't use that setup on the IFV. That has now been re-enabled because this has now been fixed, at least according to the patch notes. Now, another really long-awaited fix here with Battlefield 6 is the Recon drone exploit, where if you jumped on top of a Recon drone and hit it with the Sledgehammer, it would automatically rise up in the air, allowing you to get way up in the sky and get to unintended locations. And especially on maps where there weren't aerial vehicles, of course, this became a pretty big problem because you could get to unintended locations, and there was really no solid counter to this unless you could snipe them out of their position, but then they could have squad mates that they just spawn on, or you had to perform the glitch yourself in order to get up there to wipe the squad and clear them out of that area, and then they'll probably just do it again immediately after anyway. So it's nice to see they finally took care of that one as well. And those were the primary fixes that took place with this update, and that's excellent to see. Just a few other things they pointed out here. They fixed an issue where vehicles weren't spawning correctly in Breakthrough and Conquest. They also fixed an issue where matches would sometimes start with all of the sectors and objectives active at the same time. And they also fixed an issue in Strike Point on Siege of Cairo where destruction did not reset at halftime. Now, as far as progression goes, we got the big challenge updates a handful of days ago, sometime last week. I covered that in great detail in a video. I actually went through every single weapon and class change that they made, so you can see before and after and just how much they made. I will leave that link down below if you guys haven't checked that out yet. But they did make a couple more fixes with this update. The first one is they fixed an issue where the shotgun weapon challenge that required you to kill 5 enemies with a shotgun without reloading, that wasn't completing properly. That should be fixed now. And then they also fixed an issue where progress for the Engineer Specialist 3 challenge did not save correctly. And for reference, this is the one that requires you to repair 1,000 HP with the repair torch in a single match. It used to be 6,000, but they cut it down to 1,000. Apparently it wasn't tracking properly, and they've now got that taken care of. Now, outside of that, when it comes to Battlefield 6 multiplayer at least, there's one last thing that really affects me, and this is actually a really good thing, but for the majority of you, it won't really matter. They fixed an issue where you can now properly spawn armor into Portal, so I can actually do the proper testing. I figured this out now. I've got armor available in Portal, and I can figure out what's going on, hopefully, with the armor, because I also made a recent video talking about how armor appears to be broken. There are some serious issues with armor, as far as I can tell, at least, in Battle Royale. And now this allows me to do a lot more detailed testing here to hopefully figure out what's going on with that. And that's pretty much it on the multiplayer side of things. There were some adjustments to REDSEC as well, just some bug fixes here. Like if you get killed immediately after a mobile respawn completed, it would wipe your squad rather than letting your squad respawn as they should. Also, there was another one where in a quads match, it wouldn't always end after the last team was eliminated. And there was an issue where players were retaining their second chance after redeploying, and it didn't transition into the end of round screen after their next elimination. And there we have it. That is going to wrap it up for this update. I think this was really nice to see some of these bug fixes take place, especially those top 3 ones, the aim down sight spread, the Sledgehammer Recon drone bug, as well as the lock guided missiles. It's great to see those taken care of. Those were some of the bigger issues, I would say, with the actual gameplay itself. So I'm happy to see this one, and this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about this update? Are you guys happy with the adjustments they made here? Or were you maybe hoping for some more? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.